And welcome back to another episode of Fight Night Picks Kicks. If you haven't done it already, I definitely suggest you check out fightnightpicks.com. All sorts of great stuff, including episodes of Early Stoppage and our own Joshua Hart's full card betting guide. And listen, the guy has a lot of fun. He goes fight by fight. He's got his best value. He's got his best bets at the end. He's having a good time over at fightnightpicks.com. So give it a shout. And if you haven't already, check out the store. And you can pick up some of the merch of the boys wear on the show. I know Craig Allen, and I have it on pretty good authority that he likes to wear the Under Armour adjustable cap out and about in New Brunswick, Canada. So maybe you want to check out the store, check out the site. You can find it, as always, at fightnightpicks.com. And as always, let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode with Fight Night Picks. As always, we're brought to you by SimBody. Vertiball is now SimBody. If you head on over to their website, simbody.com, you're going to get all the great products that you know and love, including the SimBody Vertiroller and the Vertiball that you have seen most likely here in studio. Look at that. Place it, lock it, attach it, Vertiball, all sorts of great stuff over there if you want to roll out those old tired muscles and you don't want to go with that old lacrosse ball. They're also coming out with that very new product that you can see right in front of you. And if I head on over to my cart, look at that. I've already got a Vertiball over there. A little bit of a deal right there. And if you hit the try for 60 days risk-free, use the promo code FNP, you're going to get 20% off your order with that code FNP at simbody.com. You're really, really helping out another local company here in New Brunswick, Canada. Can't wait for it. The new name, SimBody at simbody.com. And as we always say, let's get into it.
A last look at the big card. Be sure to head into the chat and have your say. Let's get into it and join in Fight Night Picks Kicks.
And look at that, just like that, we're back, we're live, and we're ready for Fight Night Picks Kicks for this Saturday, UFC 271. As always, one half of your hosting duo. And listen, I didn't leave it on mute to start this one off and play the algorithm with extra comments, but you can leave them over there if you'd like. I will certainly appreciate it. Time Is Not Aligned was very early on in the comments section, going to the old Prudential Center, going to see Ghost. Did they sing Enter Sandman? I'm sure they did. That gets me fired the F up. But what I will tell you, Matt, is that I'm really looking forward to this card. It is amazing. Unfortunately, we lose Alex Perez, Matt Schnell. We already made 2 videos on that in the last number of months, but it should be a great one. First, last thing, everybody's sleeping on Whittaker. He's a live dog. Donnie Dimes having a good time. And in the super chat, it could happen 21. Make sure you follow him over on Instagram.
You should.
Been absolutely on fire this month with the NBA picks. Listen, the NBA, it's hot in the streets. They're having a good time. Everybody's
I see you've been
trading.
picking the Raptors a lot, and as a diehard Raptors fan, I really appreciate that.
Well, it is a great time to be a fight fan as well, and we really want to thank everybody for tuning in, joining in so far. We also have the Fight Night Picks companion for the main card portion of the card coming up later on tonight. Matt, I got to be honest, before we get too far into the picks and everything, UFC 270 was great, and we get excited about those cards because there's a lot of prospects, and we kind of flex the muscle of, yeah, we did the tape study, we're having fun, but this weekend's card, today's card, I'm really looking forward to it.
This actually feels like a pay-per-view today. I woke up way more excited than I have every other day this week, because it was it's UFC 271, because let's be very honest about what the last pay-per-view was. It was a fight night card with 2 title fights at the top of it. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Just normally, when we get these big pay-per-views, they are solid from the first fight in the prelims all the way up until the main event. And yes, we only have 1 title fight today. It's not the 2 that we got last time around. The card from top to bottom is just far better. We have exciting debuts coming up. And let's give this title shot the amount of praise that it deserves. Adesanya might be the biggest star in MMA right now. Robert Whittaker was the champion. Loses title in the biggest stage possible at Marvel Stadium, but he's been able to work his way back up, add new skills to his skill set. I could be more excited for tonight's main event.
Wayne Kerr the second hitting us up in the super chat. Let's get into it. Good luck, everybody. Wayne, good luck to you as well.
Thank
and
you.
hopefully for Robert Whittaker, I know we talked about it, kind of weird fighting at home with such a big atmosphere, and it felt really emotional and personal. Don't Walk Out to K-Sam. That's a sad song. It's I was amped up when it was happening, but then when he lost, it was oh, little tear. So I'm really looking forward to it, Matt. It should be a great one. I know there was a question if we could do, by Lord Nikon, if we could do a 45 segment talking about the James Harden trade, don't give up on your friends. Don't ask out twice in a season. But Matt,
if you're gonna give up on your friends, though, go join Joel Embiid.
No, that much is true. But Matt, as always with Fight Night Picks Kicks, we throw it on over to our Fight of the Night screen. Thank goodness, knock wood, we haven't lost these 2 fights. So we'll go and throw it on over there. Your ad here. Hit us up in the DMs and the emails. You want to see your ad on the show. We had a major brand sponsor for about a year, but time has passed. And you could see yourself or your friend's brand there. So hit us up. But Matt, Kyler Phillips taking on Marcelo Rojo. Brandon hitting us up in the Super Chat. William Knight, submission or bust. William Knight busted it by missing weight and coming in at 218.
I don't want to hear you ever talk about William Knight and busting ever again.
Yikes. But he kind of came out on Instagram and decided to get mad at everybody. But either way, Kyler Phillips, Marcelo Rojo. This fight was supposed to be on the pay-per-view. Alexander Hernandez got a little pissy. Now he's on the pay-per-view. So it's put up or shut up for Alexander Hernandez when he takes on Renato Moicano. But for Kyler Phillips, he had a bit of a disappointing fight his last time out. Some people thought it was a draw, but ultimately it's a majority decision win for Raulian Paiva. One judge scored it a draw, the other two 29-28 because they didn't believe in the 10-point must system of the 10-8. But for Marcelo Rojo, his last time out on short notice at 145, he takes on Charles Jourdain. You talk about put up or shut up. He blew up his 2 eyeballs, and he made weight, and he didn't look too bad on the scale at 135.
Exactly. What Marcelo Rojo did in his first UFC fight was, it's very rare to do. You lose a fight by knockout, but you still somehow gain fans, gain stock in just the UFC. It was really impressive to do. And for Kyler Phillips, he's just such an interesting fighter. I'm going to say last NBA comp, but we all know it's not going to be. Kyler Phillips is kind of like Kristaps Porzingis, where the idea of Kyler Phillips at his best is a great idea. He's a phenomenal striker, he's got wrestling, he's a fun grappler, he's got cardio, but it seems like we only ever see bits and pieces of his game, and we never really get to see the whole thing brought together. Hopefully this could be the big performance that finally gets people on board, makes people believe, okay, Kyler is finally ready to be a top 15 guy and actually stay in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, Phillips looked really good on the scale. I thought Rojo, again, looked all right. I mean, he's fought at 135 in the past. It shouldn't be a huge deal. A couple of guys that I thought looked terrible on the scale. Ronnie Lawrence and Mana Martinez. And I see over there's already some kind of chatter about this fight. I think it's going to be a great one. And it's weird because Ronnie Lawrence is a big favorite. And I have him to win. I had him to win at the start of the week. I still do now. We'll talk about this fight more as we go along with the show. But Ronnie Lawrence, I mean, man, his eyes were sunken in. Mana Martinez just looked thin all throughout, and he had enough to kind of have a little bit of fun when he was on the scale, but I hate to see that out of both of these guys. And again, for Lawrence, at about a 4-1, I just don't have the confidence to anchor him on my parlays. Donald E. Guys III hitting us up in the Super Chat. Big friend of the show. Allen Boy's better than the Nelk Boys. I actually had a Nelk Boys comp for this show or reference because we talked about them at the start of the week.
I don't know who they are still.
Again, and some people were like, oh, you know what? The Nelk Boys, you guys should get them on. You guys should figure out a way there. The one thing that I had to say after I watched a couple Nelk Boys videos, our energy is not even close to where their energy is at. I don't think we would gel one single bit. Those guys are absolutely bonkers, and they have a good time. It's just a totally different vibe than Fight Night Picks. But Matt, I really want to thank Donald E. Guys III for the Super Chat. Everybody that's hit up the Super Chat so far. But Matt, when it comes to this fight,
don't box yourself in, Craig. Maybe we would be cool with the Nelk Boys.
I don't know. I'm not going on a cruise ship. They're talking cruise ships. But when it comes to this fight, Matt, I think it's going to be an amazing one, even though one guy's a massive favorite.
I'm kind of glad you set it up the way you did by mentioning that neither guy looked great on the scale, because the whole reason we put this on Fight of the Night screen was, hey, there's a great chance this fight ends in finish, and that kind of plays into it. Let's say they both did have bad weight cuts. They both will be more fragile coming into Fight Night, and these are two professionals, because, hey, at least they made weight. That's more than we can say about two other people. Well, okay, one other person who was supposed to be on this card, and William Knight, who... How do you miss 12 pounds and also stay on the fight card? Like, of the two fighters who missed weight, I was very surprised by which fight ended up getting canceled, but at least these guys are professionals, and I do think it will be a fun fight.
It should be a great time. VT, sorry I can't donate, but that's all right. You don't have to. Rams fan did, saying had Hakeem Dawodu big money. Thanks, guys. Listen, Rams fan, I got something for you. You know what? I haven't been playing around with the props in the office. The Mean Hakeem. We got the card hanging back there. We also have Israel Adesanya, and I dropped it, but you can find that on 50-minute card breaks on TikTok, where we open that one. So with Fight Night Picks kicks, as people continue to trickle into the show, what we do week in, week out, we start at the bottom, we end up back where we're at right now. And then at the very end of the show, if you happen to miss it, and this definitely goes for later shows, if you happen to pop in halfway, yeah, you can go all the way back to the start. or if you want to have fun, we recap everything at the end. So it should be a great time. And yeah, there was some comments there about people doing cruises. Some people will, some people won't. I never have, and I never want to. Cruises. I don't like boats. Matt?
Yeah, I'm terrified of the ocean, fun fact.
First fight on the card. William Knight, 218 lbs, taking on Max Grecian. And it's crazy. And a couple of people wrote us a little hard in the comments section saying, wow, how weird is it that you guys talked about Max Grecian and the weight questions, but not William Knight? Because Max Grecian weighed 210.5 pounds his last time out against Dustin Jacoby. That's why. And for William Knight, we said it. You know, he's coming in on short notice. Ultimately, we picked him to win. He was the underdog at the start of the week. He's an underdog right now. But 218 pounds, and then, you know, you're doing the calling out the haters on the social media after the fact. It's just, it really is such a weird look. And do you blame him too much? Do you not? There's two sides to the coin, right? But if you're going to take the fight on short notice, my goodness, I would hope you can make the weight.
Do you think he's just that dedicated to the gains overall in the gym that he's like, nah, I'm not cutting this weight. Look how good I look. Because William Knight straight up looks like all he does is strength and conditioning, and that's it. And I was really surprised to see him miss weight because in my mind's eye, yes, he's a very thick guy for this weight class, but like looking forward to next weekend's main event. Johnny Walker and Jamal Hill are both like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, hold on.
Very big.
Whoa. Time out, and I hate to interrupt.
Well, then why are you?
That's next weekend's main event. If you missed it, RDA, Makhachev, that moved on to UFC 272.
I'm sorry, Craig, but if they're watching this video, they definitely probably know that, I would say. I just worry about William Knight, especially by missing weight by that much. Like, if you miss weight by 12 pounds, I understand it's on short notice, but something had to go wrong in camp, you'd imagine. There could have been an injury, which made you balloon so much in weight outside. Like, there's just so many question marks with a guy who does miss weight by that much. Like, remember people used to talk about how Johnny Hendricks should retire when he missed weight by, like, 1.5 pounds. And when you're a professional, even 1.5 pounds is a very significant manner. But still, for you to miss weight by 12 pounds, I just don't think you took it seriously, to be completely honest. Like, there must be something else going on for you to miss by that much.
It really is crazy. So, I mean, if we have a look at the odds for this fight, Knight taking on one tricky out in the man himself, Max Grecian. William Knight in around a plus 144. You get Max Grecian in around a minus 172. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to a fight like this, and you look at a guy like William Knight, and let's have a look again. Knight, yeah, plus 144, Grecian minus 172. I don't know what to make of it. You know, you really lose confidence in a guy that you can see as an underdog, really working in tight. Grecian struggles against pressure fighters. There were a couple of people out there in the comment section this week that said, oh, you really turned me on to Marcin Tybura when he took on Max Grecian, because Grecian was long, a rangy striker. He has really good leg kicks. I know a lot of people said Knight does, but when Knight takes them, throws them, pops his chin way up in the air, he's really, really hittable that way. And how many times has William Knight lost in the UFC? Well, they've been few and far between compared to the losses. But when I look at this one, I'm switching the pick over to Max Grecian. You miss weight by 12 pounds at light heavyweight. It really does scare me, especially when it comes to cardio, which even in the Knight fight against Da Un Jung, he struggled there. Now, he's had good cardio in the past. We have to say that. But with the weight miss, it does scare me. And fight doesn't go the distance in this one, minus 115. That's the first leg of the question mark kicks parlay. I'm going with it. Yeah, you could end up with a sloppy mess in the third round, and I'm sitting there really shaking and nervous. But when I'm playing with pop and popcorn and not going hot and heavy on it, I will go with that one as a minus 115.
I'd add anything else if I could think of it, but I honestly think you broke it down perfectly right there. Like, Grecian is good when he can keep it at that middle range. It was, like, this is, of course, it at its highest level, but when Calvin Kattar fought Giga Chikadze, at the outside, when we can both have distance, Chikadze would have some success. But once Kattar was able to crowd that distance and sort of make it ugly, that's when Chikadze struggled. Grecian at that medium distance can land leg kicks and does have a good kicking game. On the inside, I do worry about him quite a bit, but I agree with you. I can't put any stock into a guy who missed weight by 12 pounds, so I'm going to have to switch my pick.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can definitely see Knight going out there with all the added weight, being able to knock Grecian out in the first round. Grecian's a pretty durable guy, though, so you do have to factor that one in. But when I do look at it, I mean, Lethal Latin saying, can Knight wrestle for 3 rounds? I just don't know where we're at with a weight miss that's that bad. So I'm all right with taking. Fight doesn't go the distance at minus 115. So I'm going that way. We'll move on to our next fight, Matt. A couple of consummate professionals. Blood Diamond at 3-0 in MMA. Making his UFC debut. Now, we talked about it early on in the week. This is one of the most polarizing fights straight up at the end of the week. Out of all of them, this one and Dobson Malkoun were the two that I saw the most amount of comments for in favor of the underdog or disagreeing or kind of all over the place. But for Blood Diamond, 52-14 in kickboxing, 17 knockouts. He's talked about that recently, the 17 knockouts over there in kickboxing. 3-0 in MMA. Hasn't fought in MMA in a while. His last fight against Dimps Gillies was fun, but, you know, Dimps Gillies, it's Dimps. And then the other guys that he had fought, not an extensive record in MMA. So for Blood Diamond, when it really comes down to it, very, very creative striking. Very good in-fight adjustments. I absolutely love that out of Blood Diamond. There's some fighters you go out there and watch and it's like, man, I only have one speed. Go. And then they never change out of it. Blood Diamond's one of those guys that can definitely do that. And when it comes to this one, Jeremiah Wells, and I had pictures that I threw out in our last Jeremiah Wells video when he was supposed to take on Jake Matthews. I think that was back in December. It ultimately fell out, but Wells will run in there and throw his arms into the air to crash distance. That's where he can get countered and knocked out by a guy like Blood Diamond. So again, a lot of people going with Blood Diamond, but I see it over there in the comments section. You got Donnie Dime saying going Wells. You got Dylan Hayes saying Wells by sub. You got Bout Better saying Wells by sub. And then a William Knight comment. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to this one, it's kind of tricky. Oliver hitting us up in the super chat. Derek Brunson looked big next to Jared Cannonier and Wayans. Jared's one of those weird guys, again, like from 265 to 185, and he's still short.
It is very odd. Bodied up, though. That guy does not skip gym days. Here's the thing about this fight that makes no sense to me. What does Blood Diamond look like after a whole round off his back? Because we've never really seen that before. And anytime you have a kickboxer coming over to MMA, it's not that I worry about their cardio just per se, as much as I worry about their grappling cardio. You're just working a lot of very different muscles when you're wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu than you are when you're striking. And when you're striking, those are set movements that you've done your whole entire life. You are used to those things. It's very much similar to Gokhan Saki, where Gokhan Saki, when he was flowing, the Turkish Tyson. But if you clinched him for 30 seconds, his arms would burn, they'd just get tired. Like, we don't know what Blood Diamond's going to look like after a very difficult fight. So I feel okay picking Jeremiah Wells, even though Blood Diamond has the possibility to definitely have a higher ceiling between these two guys. Because let's say Blood Diamond goes out there and wins. It's probably going to be a head kick backing up, followed by like a two-piece on the ground, and then he'll backflip off the cage, and it'll be all over Twitter. Whereas if Jeremiah Wells wins, it's like you said, he'll be crashing forward. It might not look pretty, but it will be effective. And that's the thing I keep on going back to. If these guys do close distance on each other, I don't doubt that Blood Diamond can at least hold his own in some of the clinch exchanges by getting off some of his own offense. I just worry about his takedown defense from those clinch positions, and I think that's where this fight's going to end up more often than not.
Serial Chiller bringing up the old Chewy, and I said if Derek Lewis is able to get that takedown right off the bat, I'll do a Chewy of hot sauce.
I think you just said in the fight. Was it off the bat?
No. Right off the bat, I will do the Chewy of hot sauce. I promise everybody that. I'll do it on the Fight Companion. If it really does happen, I'll walk out to the fridge. I cracked a bottle of hot sauce here the other week. I'll crack it again. But when it comes to this one, yeah, I mean, it was mentioned by Bout Better. We were kind of talking about it before the show came on. The fact that this fight doesn't go the distance, is like -4 or 500. So that goes to show, again, finishing abilities out of both guys. And I hate fights like this because it feels like, okay, it's an Adesanya pay-per-view card. It's a Whittaker pay-per-view card. And Adesanya's teammate that has less than 5 pro fights is probably meant to win, but he's the underdog. Jeremiah Wells coming in about a -235. I have Jeremiah Wells, but yeah, it's one of those ones. Can I see Blood Diamond knocking him out just really quick?
Yeah.
Sure. And Blood Diamond, to his credit, his last pro MMA fight, 3 5-minute rounds, so unlike the 3-minute rounds in kickboxing, there was a little bit of clinching, there was a little bit of grappling, and he did well in those exchanges. The trouble I have, and the reason why I have Wells, is once it gets back up against the cage, if it does get there, Blood Diamond does a good job of shucking guys off with his upper body. He has decent defensive hips, but upper body, he throws, he backs right out of there. Carlos Ulberg does this too. I know it's a comp at the same gym as City Kickboxing, but Jeremiah Wells lives and dies by body lock takedowns and upper body throws. So for that reason, I do like Jeremiah Wells. And over there, Poten saying PSA, the guy's real name is Mike Mathitha, or Mike Diamond, the softcore name, or Blood Diamond. And that is just... it's so intense.
It is. Next level.
All right, so Matt, you got Wells in this one?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so we move on, Matt, to our next fight. We have Douglas Silva de Andrade taking on Sergey Morozov.
I'm so excited for this fight. I have no business to be this excited for this fight, but I truly am.
The best part about this is, if you look at it from my guy, D. Silva, who I've been riding that train for the longest time, just like, and that was another thing in the comments I saw this week, people were like, you know what, Craig? You were all over Nasrat Hack Press for so long. Now, what's happened? I don't know. But
things change.
When it comes to this one, I mean, D. Silva at 136 on the scale didn't look bad at all. at all. And did the old flex, did the point, didn't look drawn out totally. And you love to see it, especially for a guy this late in his career. I mean, what is it? 20 of his wins, 20 of his 27 are by knockout. Like, this guy's absolutely insane. And the craziest part is, his results at 145 weren't great, but you look at the guys that he lost to, like Takugov in his UFC debut, which was in 2014. Lerone Murphy was his last loss at 145.
No shame in that.
Knocked out Gaetano Perello. Happy trails, Gaetano, back to Belgium. He just got cut this week, and yeah, that was an amazing fight. Sergey Morozov, your former M1 global champ. This guy is an absolute gamer when it comes to all facets of MMA. And the thing that I like out of Sergey Morozov on the scale, this guy is the sharpest upper collarbones I've ever seen. It's weird.
They're prominent for sure.
Good for him. So Matt, when it comes to this fight, Mr. Face, he's saying, what's up, fellas? Witt, Lewis, Cannonier, and Alex. But when it comes to this one, I mean, also Donnie Dimes saying Douglas gonna drop him. Prince Vegeta's son saying, D. Silva's my guy. And he is. But when it comes to this one, what are we thinking here? Because I know we were split on this one at the start of the week.
I think D. Silva can have success in this fight. I just don't know how sustainable it's going to be. Again, it's like the Utah Jazz putting a lot of their faith into Rudy Gay coming off the bench. It's like, yeah, he's good, and he does fill a lot of those holes, but he is 34 years old, and he's played 1 trillion minutes throughout his career. It's just a lot of faith to put into one person. Now, I do think that Morozov is just going to be the steadier fighter throughout this one. And the other thing I'll say, beating Gaetano Perella doesn't tell us that much about you going forward. That's all.
It's just cool as hell.
It is.
Malone Hart hitting us up in the super chat. Do you think Brunson will actually retire if he wins the title? I don't believe it. His reasoning wasn't sound. We talk about it on early stoppage. That'll probably come out tomorrow, myself and John Franklin. I kind of believe him. The thing that makes it weird, like he had that fight in North Carolina against Jacare. He got knocked out. He got knocked out by Jacare in Strikeforce. Like he's had upswings, and then when he has a downswing, he usually ends up losing two. Usually ends up losing them emphatically. So it is tricky, but I do think, late in his career, wants to set himself up well. If he had a gym, which I'm pretty sure he has a gym in North Carolina, he can just spend his time there and become a really good coach.
I honestly think it was all just him trying to make sure that his next fight is for the title. That's all. Like, I think he'll fight 5 more times, I think. I just think he's trying to, market his way to get towards the title. Because right now at middleweight, there's about 5 guys who are all about equally deserving for the next title shot. It's just that Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker are so clearly number 1 and 2 in this division. Everyone else just sort of falls behind. So the way I looked at it was just sort of Derek Brunson trying to, okay, if I do beat Jared Cannonier, well, who am I going to fight next? I don't really want to go and fight Paulo Costa. I don't really want to fight Marvin Vettori. But let's be honest, Vettori has as good of an argument to a title shot as Derek Brunson. So I think this is just Brunson's way of trying to sort of finagle his way into getting a shot at whoever the winner is tonight.
It should be a lot of fun. Malone Hart, everybody that's set up the super chat so far, we really appreciate you. Mark earlier that's saying, can't wait for Craig Allen versus Hiccups 2 on the Fight Companion. Yeah, that's
one of the
happening.
more legendary rivalries on this channel.
And Oliver pointing that out. That super chat has been going absolutely insane. Donnie hitting it up. We've got Malone Hart as well. Thank you so much. You're really the engine that's driving the show. I mean, in the absence of the ads,
600 views, 103 likes.
Just doing the job. Making
We
UFC
appreciate
271 Saturday a special thing. Matt, we got to finish off on this fight.
We do.
D. Silva, Morozov, we were split on the pick at the start of the week. I will say this. Douglas Silva de Andrade, and I had it written down, so I really want to hammer this point home when it comes to this one. If you look at it for the takedowns, Takugov took down D. Silva, Rob Font did, Piotr Jan, Henna Barao, and Lerone Murphy. But D. Silva took down Briones, Font, as many times as Font took him down, Marlon Vera, and Murphy. And when it comes to this one, the scary thing is, like in the on-fight, when D. Silva gets taken down, sometimes he has a hard time popping himself back up. He's not Derek Lewis, but he does have good enough takedown defense over his overall career. I like him in this fight as a fairly sizable underdog, and I say fairly sizable, so when I say that, I have to get you the numbers. D. Silva open to plus 170, he's plus 176 right now. Morozov in that minus 212 category. So again, for me, I'm going with Douglas Silva de Andrade as the underdog, but again, the more safe pick is obviously Sergey Morozov with the takedowns, with the overall well-roundedness of his game.
This is the thing about Douglas Silva de Andrade. He is as scary as a 36-year-old 5'5" man can be. That's something I think everyone can agree on, no matter where you are in the world or what your job is. I do like Morozov in this one. Am I worried about him in this fight? For sure. He get cracked by a big left hook, get dropped, and get guillotined because that's the way that De Silva plays, but I do like Morozov in this one. I think it'll be a great fight, though. I don't think it's going to be one-way traffic, one way or the other. I really do think this will be an entertaining fight.
Matt, I got my chat, and everybody, it's just blowing right up. So it should be a great one. And to Tio Shot GG, I'll go back through and check them once UFC 271 is done. So if they got caught up in the queue on the side, I'll make sure I go into those requests and get back to you.
I'm sorry, but Chris, who does Matt Riddle wrestle for? Is he still with WWE or is he with AEW? I don't pay attention. I just know he was in the UFC.
Matt, AJ Dobson's got a wrestler in his corner. I saw Mark Coleman made it into the embedded thumbnail for this
him.
week. So pretty cool stuff from the Hammer. His first fight against Shogun Hua was awesome. His second fight against Shogun Hua was very sad. He was way too old. They thought he was going to be like Randy Couture as an old man, and it just didn't work out. But for AJ Dobson, he's got his hands full with Jacob Malkoun, and we slagged the guy on the right-hand side of the screen that looks like George Costanza without a shirt on. But when it comes to Jacob Malkoun, the guy can wrestle, he can chain things together, and on the ground, he has very good jiu-jitsu. Something that I think could pose an issue to AJ Dobson with his energy systems, because for Dobson, he's a one-hitter quitter, first-round type of guy, give one to eat one in that first round. Now, he hasn't lost a fight, but there's things that kind of scare me. I mean, for Dobson, if you rock Jacob Malkoun and you jump to the ground and try and do that, he's had two guys down and he just goes to their side and puts his arms in place for the rear naked. He doesn't get the hooks. He doesn't get the back. He just goes on their side and does it. He's done it twice. It does kind of scare me a little bit. So if you like Dobson a whole heck of a lot, I see Aaron saying, but Dobson is explosive. Gramps is saying Malkoun by sub.
What's up, Duel Razak?
And VT saying, I'm rooting for AJ Dobson. It really is a tricky one in this fight. Like, I really do have a hard time.
Jacob Malkoun is an interesting character because, again, whenever you have a fighter who gets brought up as, oh, they're not their own fighter, they are this fighter's training partner, there's always going to be question marks surrounding them and just how kind of legitimate their claim to being in the UFC is. But Malkoun has had two extremely different fights in the UFC so far. But his last time out, like you said, he showed sort of the full capabilities of his wrestling game. But it's interesting, for a guy who has a jiu-jitsu background, he's not as refined with his submission ability as you would think. He is more of a, and I hate labeling guys Jake Shield grapplers because they don't really do it in the same way, but he will sort of use his own physicality kind of as his own submission, if that makes any sense. He wears on you. He makes you feel his presence. He will kind of allow you to get back up, and then he will take you down. It's all just a very exhausting style when you're fighting a guy like Jacob Malkoun. So for me, anytime anybody's fighting Malkoun, it comes down to how good is their knockout ability early. Just because on the feet, he does leave himself kind of open. He likes to reach for his takedown attempts sometimes, but we all know what happens if he is able to secure that first takedown. He has a good pace. He is very strong physically, and he just has an innate ability to he's a smart grappler, I guess, is really what I'm trying to get at. Even though the submission ability might not always be there, I do like what I see from him on the mat.
Malkoun's the third biggest mover and shaker on this card. Open to plus 170. He's a minus 103 right now. For AJ Dobson on the comeback, open minus 200. He's a minus 117. So there you go. You can understand why at the start of the week, I didn't have confidence at AJ Dobson. I think he was, around like a minus 180 or so. And now we're here where Malkoun's gained a lot of traction. This is one where I'm going to throw it on over to Tapology. The Instagram votes at Fight Night Picks were wonky. Sometimes Instagram just hides the pictures if you put too many up at the same time. But 3,502 total votes on Tapology. 73% Dobson, 71% by knockout for the 27% that are Malkoun. 72% by decision. And Oliver's saying there are no real locks on this card or the next couple of ones. This is one of those fights. I have AJ Dobson because I've seen Jacob Malkoun, and I think it was deer in the headlights against Phil Hawes. I think it was just the moment, the whole thing. You're on that big Whittaker card. Things happen, and Phil Hawes is a one-hitter quitter in the first round. I think Dobson can get it done, but again, I would not hang my hat on this one, and if I get it wrong, I also wouldn't be surprised. Hopefully that's enough red flags.
I don't want to pick Jacob Malkoun, Craig, but I think I'm going to pick Jacob. The steadiness of his wrestling and the fact that him and Robert Whittaker are in camp together does mean something to me. Like, your quality of training partner really does matter because those are the guys you're in with every single day. Could I be completely wrong on this? Of course I could be. I've been wrong many times before on this channel. But I think Jacob Malkoun will be able to chain his wrestling together. Now, if he gets knocked out quick, I won't be surprised at all. But I'm putting my faith in Jacob Malkoun, maybe even against my own best judgment.
D Marvelous, we appreciate you. And for Weston MJ14, I should have bought it when I saw it at Martin's. I can't wait. I'm thinking, what, a couple months? Maybe we're going to end up back there. So it's exciting. And New England Fights, they got a card, 15-fight card from Portland tonight, and I am not there. And it hurts my soul. But, Matt, we move on to our next fight. We're split on the pick there. Mana Martinez, Ronnie Lawrence. I never looked too much, like, weigh-in day, whatever. I mean, I usually watch it after the fact on Saturday. And yesterday, obviously, I caught the fact that Knight missed weight. But then I like to go back and just see what the guys look like on the scales. And both of these guys did not look good at 135. Now, when you look at it, I mean, Mana Martinez is really tall for bantamweight. Ronnie Lawrence is pretty scrappy. Like, he's tall. He's got long arms for this division. So when it comes to this one, both guys look bad. Now, Mana Martinez, you talk about a guy with knockout abilities in both hands. Holy smokes. And how about the Jose Johnson win for Mana Martinez? And then you look at it, Jose Johnson over with Fury, just got a big knockout. So pretty cool stuff. And for Ronnie Lawrence, well, he also beat Jose Johnson, but in a totally different way. So I really do like this fight. Ronnie Lawrence is, like, maybe he trains in camp with Khabib, like, undercover. Because you look at his takedowns and the variety of takedowns from space up against the cage. A lot of fun to watch. But again, styles make fights. These guys have opposite styles. And we have this as a possible fight of the night. So I really am looking forward to this one.
And correct me if you think I'm wrong when I say this, but I look at this fight as a very easy one to break down, where I think Ronnie Lawrence is going to win the vast majority of this fight, except for if he gets caught in a bad moment here or there. He could get dropped in the first round, he could drop in the second or the third, but if he does get hurt, I do like his wrestling ability. On the feet, it's not like he can't strike with Mana Martinez. Like, it's probably not the smartest idea to do early just because Martinez is so explosive, but I really do like Ronnie Lawrence in this matchup. Like, this is one of those fights where I say, oh, if we match both guys' skills up next to each other, I don't even think Mana Martinez would be anywhere as close to Ronnie Lawrence. I really just think it's his power X factor that makes this fight any close at all.
Yeah, Mana Martinez is a heck of a striker. That's the spot where I think he excels over a guy like Lawrence, because Lawrence does get really creative in the pockets, and I think working at Sanford MMA, it's only going to accentuate his overall game. Mana Martinez coming in a plus 241 on best fight odds, and if you want the comeback on Ronnie Lawrence, minus 305. So take with it what you will, but I've got Ronnie Lawrence in this one. I think wrestle, repeat. I think he's going to be able to get the win that way. But again, this is one of those ones, clash of styles. You have Dobson taking on Malkoun. Somewhat similar, less dynamic. Middleweight, not the greatest division right now. But again, yeah, for me, I'm going with Ronnie Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Matt, we'll move on to the next fight. And again, this is another one of those really controversial ones. And split on the pick at the start of the week, and the comments section was going up. I think somebody even mentioned me on Twitter, and it was in a thread, so I went up and read it. And it was basically like, there's nobody in MMA taking Fabio Cherant. And then, dick, at Craig Allen is. Oh boy. Said at the start of the week I wasn't married to it. But yeah, Fabio Cherant taking on Carlos Ulberg. How about Cherant? Made the weight, 206. Carlos Ulberg, blonde hair, don't care, 204. I mean, that's good. It's good. So, in this fight, Matt, Carlos Ulberg either knocks him out in the first round, or Fabio Cherant plays the long game of counter-striking, which doesn't work against good kickboxers, and maybe he's able to get a submission here.
That's the big problem. Like, you brought up his counter-striking at the start of the week, and you're not wrong, but when you're a counter-striker, you're not pushing the pace on your opponent. And when your opponent has poor cardio, that should be your goal. Like, in Carlos Ulberg's last fight, he threw so many shots, he got tired. Against Fabio Cherant, you're going to be allowed to throw as many shots as you want to, because unless he does hit you with one of those one big cleaners from the pocket where he closes his eyes and throws and you're not taking him seriously, I don't really see how Carlos Ulberg loses this fight on the feet. Could he get taken down and submit it? Of course he could, but that's every opponent Carlos Ulberg ever fights. Like, Fabio Cherant's improvements on the ground over Carlos Ulberg don't mean that much to me, because every fighter Carlos Ulberg fights is going to be a better grappler than himself. So I feel like his game plan, no matter who he fights, is going to be very, very similar, where I'm just going to try to create the distance. If I get tired and they start to get close to me, I'll deal with those problems when I have to. But for Ulberg, his game plan is still going to be the same, I think. It's still going to be use my movement, hit and try not to get hit, and I think he's going to be able to do that. I really do think that his lack of cardio in his previous fight really came down to output and just cardio management more than anything, and I do think we're going to see a more intelligent version of Carlos Ulberg. But let me be very clear, we can't see a stupider version of Carlos Ulberg.
Kurt Tara over in the comments section saying Cherant will Homer Simpson his way to a submission win easily. Clint's hanging out, Alex is hanging out, AG's hanging out, just my 2 cents is hanging out. DeMarvel is hanging out. There's a lot of people over there that are hanging out over in the comments section. Toss a like. It would really mean a lot to us. And those subs, since we got to 30,000, they've just been going up, and away. So really want to thank everybody on that one as well. MPTV, Fabio Cherant has been working on his chin game. That only works for Julian Erosa. And I don't know what he eats for breakfast, but A, nails, but B, I watched an interview that he did recently, and he looked amazing. He did it with Marcus Deegan. His face was like completely healed up. So he's on that Wolverine game. Good for Juicy J. And he picked up $1,000 or $100,000 in bonus money after his last fight because Steven Peterson couldn't make the weight. But yeah, Carlos Ulberg's last time out, 83 significant strikes in the first round, 63 in the second before he got dropped by Kennedy and Shukwu. Regardless of who wins this fight, the guy that loses is gone. I don't think you give Ulberg 2 shots and then he loses, he's done.
I certainly hope they don't give Fabio Cherant another chance if he goes 0-3.
And Fabio's been finished by William Knight and Alonzo Menefield. I still have Fabio Cherant in this one, but again, that's me taking a shot in the dark with a big underdog on this one. And if you look at it for Cherant, he is at a plus 210, started at plus 125 for Carlos Ulberg, minus 258 right now, biggest mover and shaker, second biggest mover and shaker on the card. So Matt, we'll move on to the next one. We made some decent points, I think, for both guys. Now let's make some decent points for these guys. We have this as the second option for fight of the night. I mean, there's so many good ones on this card. Kyler Phillips taking on Marcelo Rojo. And my second leg to the question mark kicks parlay is fight goes over 1.5 rounds at minus 125. That with Knight and Grecian to not go the distance. Ends up at a plus 237 between the two of those. But I think this is a great fight. I mean, Kyler Phillips, great first rounds. Really great first rounds last time out. Second, third round kind of fell off a cliff. His output was decent, but it was beleaguered, I guess we could say. Marcelo Rojo, firecracker, loves the T-Rex Selly if he does get the win. Will he T-Rex Selly this weekend? It's going to be tough.
This is going to be a phenomenal fight. It really will be. And to go back to basketball for a second, there's a style of play called pace and space, where you run up and down the floor as fast as you can, and you just try to shoot as many volume threes, just because if the math equals out, you'll score a lot of points. This is pace versus space in this fight, whereas Kyler Phillips is going to need a lot of space in between him and Marcelo to really be able to land a lot of his damaging shots, because when you think about Kyler Phillips, you think about that weird karate stance where you can dart in, dart out. It's the spinning techniques. It's nothing very traditional, whereas with Rojo, it's all that moving forward, crash the distance, keep a very high pace, and eliminate all of your space. And I think that's why this fight's going to be so fun, because let's say Rojo can get on the inside of Phillips in the first minute of the fight. He's going to go to the body. He's going to go to the head. He's going to chop Phillips down from the legs all the way to the head and probably knock him out if we're all being honest, because that's the kind of output, that's the kind of power that Rojo has. But the flip side is, let's say Kyler sort of learned the lessons from his previous fight. Let's say he does find his own Goldilocks zone where, okay, I know when I can be this sort of distance management striker, but I also know when I can mix in my own offensive wrestling game and my own grappling. That's going to be a really dangerous fighter for anyone else in the division. So this fight I really like because it gives Phillips the opportunity to, okay, sort of go back, reassess. It's not a gimme for an opponent by any means. It's a very difficult opponent, but it's a guy outside of the rankings, so it's not the toughest fight for you. And let's say Phillips can sort of correct some of his past mistakes, then yeah, I really do think he's going to be at least a top 10 guy for a couple of years.
Kyler Phillips at 135 looks like the coach at the gym if he just kind of accentuated certain other skills and not just trying to go for leg locks and you know, the splits in the cage. Like Benson Henderson, that's who I'm talking about. Like Kyler Phillips has those attributes, but like Benson Henderson, Kyler Phillips fights get way too close for comfort and can end in split decisions. So yeah, when I look at this one, it does worry me a little bit. That's why I'm going over 1.5 rounds. Could Phillips finish it in the first round? Sure. Could Rojo do it as well? Sure. Fade me. That's fine. But when I do look at this one, I mean, Rojo, the one thing that I see as a bit of a flaw that Kyler Phillips can overcome is the abilities on the ground. And Entram Gym, you're going to have a lot of great people to train with to get ready for a fight like this. Obviously, we saw Rojo at the last pay-per-view. I mean, you had what? There were 4 different fighters. Michael Morales was the only one to get a win there, so that one was tough. But Renato Valdez, you had Silvana Gomez-Juarez, and then you had Brandon Moreno. For me, I do like the man himself, Kyler Phillips, and I'm going with that over 1.5 rounds.
And I'm going to say this. If I was Dana White, this fight would still be on the main card. Because even though Rojo doesn't have the name that either Moicano or Hernandez does, and maybe Phillips might be maybe on pace with those guys, you get the idea. I think entertainment-wise, this fight's going to deliver more than that other one.
In my notes, like I had Ulberg by knockout was minus 135, calf considering, Jeremiah Wells minus 235, but that's the one that I ended up on, Matt. In our next fight, we have the send-off of Roxanne Modafferi. Twitter has been all over this one, giving her flowers, rightfully so. We tried to do our best to do that at the start of the week. And she's only fought good fighters. Like, you can't find a big loss on
Since the
Roxanne.
dawn of time.
You can't find a loss on Roxanne Modafferi's record where you go, like, what? Like, huh? Like, even Valentina Shevchenko lost to Liz Carmouche at one point. Roxanne Modafferi's just been fighting the best of the best for the longest time. Now she's taking on Casey O'Neill. And for Casey O'Neill, again, I was not high on her coming into the UFC, and it took 2 fights, and all of a sudden I'm definitely convinced. And listen, a lot of people were down on me, especially when she made her debut, but her last time out against Shevchenko, she looked amazing in that fight. She really did. I mean, she is a ground specialist if we've ever seen one. She'll struggle against a striker, I'm sure she will, but if she can close that distance, she can definitely come out on the winning end. And for Roxanne Modafferi, she's tricky. She really is tricky. Donnie Dimes saying O'Neill inside the distance. Eli saying Roxanne. No, not so much. So when it comes to this one, Matt, with VT saying Roxy is a legend, though, she definitely is. What are you saying in this fight?
To reach legend status, you have to, like, take a lot of damage, be in a lot of fights, and be pretty old by that point. And unfortunately for Roxanne, she has checked all of those boxes. And if you like MMA, you like Roxanne Modafferi. She represents everything good in this sport. You just work really, really hard. If you're nice to people, hey, maybe you can get a really big opportunity. But the problem is, what is her big weakness? When she isn't the superior grappler in her matchup, she gets out grappled. It's almost like a bare bones version of Rafael dos Anjos, where RDA, when he's the better offensive wrestler, can take everybody down, can be good at Muay Thai on the feet, no jiu-jitsu guys. But where does he struggle? Against Khabib, against Covington, against Usman. People who can out-wrestle him because then they can almost take his game plan, use it against him. Roxanne fights in a very similar manner. If she can get on top of her opponent, she has great elbows from mount, she has good submission ability, but the issue is that off her back, she's not very physically strong, and she can't really buck herself out of bad positions. Like you had said earlier, Derek Lewis can just get up because he's so strong and he's so explosive that maybe it might only be once a fight, it might only be twice a fight, but he can use that technique to at least get out of a bad position one time. Roxanne's kind of stuck in bad positions unless she can hold on, try to get the ref to stand her up, or she can get a sweep. I don't think she's good enough grappler to go out there and get a sweep off her back against someone like Casey O'Neill. And you're right, on the feet, I'm sure O'Neill will struggle in the future with like Caitlin Chukagian probably keeps her up at night. But in this matchup, I don't think Roxanne's going to be able to hit her hard enough to really get her respect. And I think Casey's going to be able to dominate this fight on the mat.
Raw Torque, I won't accept that slander about Roxanne Modafferi over in the comments section. She is a legend and she deserves all the respect. Yeah. And she fought for a friggin' title. Doesn't matter the circumstances. I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be Sijara Eubanks, but you can't take that from her. I've got Casey O'Neill in this fight. I mean, yeah, we've seen Roxanne Modafferi in those compromised positions. When a fighter gets mount's a tricky position, right? Because now in 2022 and in the past few years, it's like half guard. You want to be in half guard?
Okay, no, it has always been. Randy Couture is the one who invented this. It's been around since 2003.
But when it comes to a fight like this, when you get mount on Roxanne Modafferi, it is bad spot for old Roxy. So yeah, I do like O'Neill in this one. I think she's going to be able to get it done. And man, that Laura Procopio win, like that's a tricky one. So we move on to our next fight. Jared Vanderaa. What is that? Where did that come from?
It'd be like asking Mario Yamasaki, where did the heart come from?
He loves to just smile and wave, and it just weirds me right out. But when it comes to this fight, Jared Vanderaa at the tippy top of the weight class, Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis, they're living in that stratosphere. Derek Lewis, 266, bridging on Greg Hardy territory, but not Justin Taffa. So when it comes to this one, Andrei Arlovski weighed, what, a pound more than he did his last fight out there. Tippity toes. He's definitely the quicker fighter, which is weird for a guy that's, 43. He definitely has better boxing combinations. So this is a very interesting fight because he's been that gatekeeper since he had that losing streak to all the top guys. For Arlovski, the one loss since then is the Tom Aspinall, who I think you're going to see challenge for a title, maybe even this year. But when it comes to this fight, it's one way or the other way, and that's pretty much it.
It's weird how Andrei Arlovski and Francis Ngannou are the polar, like they're the opposite fighters. Because when we talk about Francis, it's okay. Well, technically, he's probably worse than his opponent in most areas. I understand he looked better in his last one.
Oh, he's the best wrestler in the division.
But with Arlovski, most of the time he's better than his opponent at like every single martial art. It's just at the heavyweight division, you need power and you need durability. And unfortunately, at 40-some years of age, he doesn't really have those two things. And even the durability knock against him isn't completely fair at this stage of his career because it has been a while since we've seen him get hurt. Like, yes, Aspinall dropped him and submitted him, but still, Tom Aspinall is a phenomenal heavyweight fighter. So if you get dropped by a guy like that, I really don't put that much stock into it. We kind of saw the classic Andrei Arlovski his last two times out. Beats Chase Sherman, beats Justin Taffa, and he does it by sort of start me up like kicks and just being elusive. And it would be kind of nice to see him go out there and get another win. It's just the weird question I have with Arlovsky is, when do you think his last fight is going to be? Like, do you think in his
This
mind
year
he can get back into the top 15 though, or do you think he'll just keep on accepting these like gatekeeper type matchups?
This is the final year. Like, Tom Brady retires, Andre Arlovsky retires. Legends, former champ. But yeah, when I look at this one, like, I see the comments, like, Jared Vanderaa looked bad on the scale. He always weighs in at the upper echelon. Jared Vanderaa is a heavyweight that would be ranked in 2008. He has that style to him. It's a lot of single shots, lumbering forward. Yeah, he had a hell of a fight against Tafa, but it's Justin Tafa. And he's able to really lay, pray. If he's a better wrestler, heavier than some guys, he's able to get them down. And I think he's just going to make this fight boring as hell. So that's why I have Jared Vanderaa in this fight. I think this is one of those ones where you can make this one slow as mud, and it's going to be terrible. And then I'm going to go, yeah, okay, well, I got Jared Vanderaa. So I get it. I know the comment was there too, like Bozer couldn't beat Arlovsky, but Bozer tried to point fight with him, which is normally how Tanner Bozer wins. He got caught on the back foot, reacted big to those big strikes of Arlovsky, and he wasn't able to get it done. I don't see those fights as going the same way. Would I be surprised if Arlovsky points himself to a decision? No, but I do like Vanderaa to win by decision.
I like Andre Arlovsky in this matchup. I think he'll be able to strike on the back foot, but I don't love the pick. Again, picking a 40-year-old in the heavyweight division isn't something I love doing on this channel, but we've seen his style, and it is able to beat guys like Jared Vanderaa. Again, the best version of 40-some-year-old Andre Arlovsky beat Jared Vanderaa. Could he get hit by a big shot that he doesn't see coming, get dropped, and then just get out-wrestled? Of course he could, but I'll stick with Arlovsky.
Just my 2 cents. I rate Tanner much higher than Vanderaa. I do too! I just think styles make the fights. Matt, we kick off our pay-per-view main card with a Fight Night Pick staple known as Nasrat Haqparast. He's going to be taking on a Bobby Green. And for Nasrat, what gym have you been at in the last 10 years, pal? Honest to goodness, I don't know. For Bobby Green, Pinnacle MMA. He's been hanging out in California forever. Bobby Green, as one of the few fighters, I had like 3 or 4 on this card that I thought didn't look good on the scale. Bobby Green I didn't think looked great on the scale, and he never really does, but he didn't look great. Nasrat didn't look too bad. But when it comes to this fight, Matt, a little bit of a surprise to me. Nasrat's been an underdog in the past. Coming into this one, open to minus 110 at par with both of these guys. Plus 125 right now. Bobby Green at minus 149. As it stands right now, Matt, we have about 800 people tuning in.
Thank you.
I got to stop this to say thank you so much. And if you tossed a like already, thank you. And if you hit up the super chat, thank you. But when it comes to this one, about better saying Haqparast a TriStar product, no? Well, his last fight against Dan Hooker, he was over in Germany. His mom passed away a couple weeks before the fight. He had a hard time making it out to fight Dan Hooker, and the same went vice versa. But he's training in Germany, but he's trained at Kings in the past. He's trained at TriStar in the past. Faraz has been in his corner, but he's also been more so out of Germany lately with Otman Zaitzar, Potato Man. So when it comes to this one, Matt, it is a tricky one. If it's in boxing range, they both have a really good opportunity to win, and that's the thing. It really is tricky.
I don't like what I'm about to say. I'm switching my pick on this. I think Nasrat Haqparast is going to win. I think he's going to win by knockout. This is my problem. Everybody's buying too high on Bobby Green because of how good he looked against Ali Quinta. But Ali Quinta had 1 foot in, 1 foot out of his MMA career at that point. And even I picked Bobby Green at the start of the week. I was the one who got caught up in that. But when I look at this fight, I don't think Green can take down Nasrat Haqparast. And when you look at a lot of Bobby Green's sort of post-rankings, but sort of resurgence matchup, he's taken a lot of guys down. Like, he had to go out there and wrestle Eric Koch because Eric Koch was having some success against him on the feet. If we see that version of Bobby Green in there against Nasrat Haqparast tonight, then I honestly think Nasrat has a really good chance of beating him. And the thing about Nasrat is he does good wrestling. I know he got taken down by Dan Hooker in his last fight, and that puts a lot of question marks in people's minds, but I think he'll be able to defend the offensive takedowns from Bobby Green, and I do think he'll be able to get from point A to point B faster.
Keith, sorry to a fellow Allen if you're not enjoying the content. I'm sorry, pal. But when it comes to this fight, I still have Bobby Green. I really do like the output. I like the different things that he can throw at Nasrat Haqparast, and I think the well-roundedness is still going to be able to get him the win in this fight. Although, again, Nasrat has very, very good output in his fights to go along with his power. So it is a really tricky one, but if you're going with him, I can definitely understand it. We move on to our next fight. Alexander Hernandez complained enough at the start of the week that he got himself onto a main card. Now, does he get pay-per-view points? I don't know, no. But he's taken on Renato Moicano, a guy who has been knocked out by some very, very good fighters. I mean, Jose Aldo, Korean Zombie, Fiziev. I mean, Fiziev's on that championship train. Korean Zombie's going to fight for the title next, and Jose Aldo looks like all the hotness 2 weight classes away from this one. But for Alexander Hernandez coming off the big win over Mike Breeden. Yeah, Mike Breeden, Mike Breeden. So, again, when it comes to this fight, I think it should be a lot of fun. I think that Alexander Hernandez could have that wrestling kryptonite that could give Moicano a little bit of pause on the feet. And as soon as you start thinking too much against a guy like Hernandez, whiffs the overhand right. And it's good night, Irene. Bennett Charles hitting us up with the super chat. Would you ever throw back the bomb featured on Hot Ones if we get the like count to 500? I have the bomb in my fridge right now. If you could get it to 500 right now, I would wet a toothpick and put the bomb in my mouth. That's how hot that is. It's disgusting. But when it comes to this one, Matt, it really is an interesting fight, and I guess it merits being on the main card.
I've agreed with a lot of what both of us have said today, but this is the thing about Hernandez that I don't agree with. I don't think he has good knockout power on the feet, if we're all being honest. Like, he knocked out Chris Grutzmacher, which doesn't mean a whole lot to me, and he hasn't shown the ability to really hurt top-level fighters on the feet. He couldn't get from point A to point B against Francisco Trinaldo, okay? Like, that was a big talking point for us in this week for this video, and I really do think he's going to have a hard time doing that in this matchup against Moicano, because, again, people forget, and they only bring up the Moicano who's been out leg kicked by other really good leg kickers. But again, with Moicano, it's similar to Roxanne in wrestling. When he is the better kicker, he has a lot of success. Because with someone like Hernandez, who uses a lot of their left and right movement, moves in and out too. If you could break down any of their footwork, it's going to take a lot away from their game. And I really do think that if you start to break down on the legs and the body of Alexander Hernandez, Moicano's going to have a lot easier time setting up his own combinations. And I don't think Hernandez is going to take this to the mat. He could, don't get me wrong. He is a very good wrestler, but I do think Moicano at least has enough of a threat with his jiu-jitsu to keep this fight standing. So maybe Hernandez has more power in this matchup, but I honestly don't think this fight's going to end inside the distance. I really do think we're going to get a longer, sort of drawn-out, more methodical fight between these two.
And a lot of people think that Moicano's going to get knocked out in this one. Bennett Charles saying, smash the like button, boys. We're up to 245. That stuff is really hot, and yeah. If you can do it, do it. I mean, I'm all about it. If we can get over 1,000 likes, 1,000 viewers, we might get near it. But yeah, when it comes to this fight, again, Moicano can pitter-patter on the feet to a point, and then he gets himself in trouble. You look at that Fiziev fight, and it was like, oh, Renato, early, maybe, you never know. I had him to beat Fiziev, and then I felt awfully silly when he just ate it, and that was it. So it is an interesting fight. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that they decided to put this one on the main card.
I agree.
You consider, again, these guys are bigger names than Phillips and Rojo, but I think Phillips and Rojo is a much more fun fight. Moicano open minus 180. He's now minus 154 for Hernandez. Open to plus 155 is plus 131. He's definitely really amped everybody up for this fight card. So maybe that was it. I mean, you generated the interest. You sold the pay-per-view. Here you go. For me, I'm still going with Moicano because his ground game is scary. And if Hernandez struggles on the feet at any point and then decides to wrestle, you're going to get caught in a defensive submission. He's going to roll Darce and it's going to be over.
No, I couldn't agree more with that. I really do think that that's going to be sort of the downfall of Hernandez. But that's the thing. Let's say Hernandez goes out there, gets a takedown in the first minute, and he's able to maintain top position, look really good. Then yes, the fight will look very different. But I agree with you. I do think Moicano is the better grappler out of these two. So I think he'll be able to at least force this fight to stay on the feet until Hernandez gets uncomfortable enough. I'll stick with Moicano, but this should be a fun fight.
Brandon G is saying fill a shot glass. Brandon G's never tried to bomb, and we're not going to get to 500 likes. I challenged you. I need to see it if we're going to get there, Matt. We have 3 fights left on the main card, and then we flip it back through the entire card. And Keith, we'll try and stay on track, pal. But Jared Cannonier is taking on Derek Brunson, and this is another one of those fights that Jared Cannonier, really good defensive wrestling until it gets really, really tested. But Jared Cannonier, he's known for that. Great leg kicks, great right hand, and he can mix it up in a lot of different ways. For Derek Brunson, sometimes the right hand is there to be had, and he eats it. But lately he's become that Division II All-American that we've known and loved, and he's really been able to string together some nice wins as an underdog. And it's another spot that he finds himself in again this week. So for Brunson, much of the same, only 2 fights left. So he says, what are you seeing here? I mean, Donnie Dimes saying Cannonier looks very ready. Raw Torque saying kill a gorilla. Wayne is saying Brunson decision. And Wake Up the Yuma is saying and Adesanya, but maybe I missed your comment from early on. GSB saying Cannonier brutal knockout. So yeah, what are you saying here?
I think Derek Brunson is gets significantly worse at striking on this run to the top of the division. I know that's a weird thing to say, but everything Derek Brunson does has some level of hesitancy on the feet. But the good news is his last string of opponents, he's been able to go out there and just completely dominate with his wrestling game. And when he does get on top of guys, he makes use of it. Like, he has thunderous ground and pound. You saw what he did to Edmund Shabazian, and like, that was hard to watch by the end of that fight. Like, he really put it on him. And I know Shabazian's not the fighter that Jared Cannonier is, but he's still a very talented fighter. So if you're able to go out there and really dominate him with your physicality like that, it sort of paints a picture for what the overall game plan for Derek Brunson should be coming into this matchup. But I'll be honest, at the start of the week, I was very heavy on Derek Brunson. I don't know how he could lose this fight. I'm more down the middle now. I'm not going to switch my pick, but I will be transparent with that with the fans. Because with Jared Cannonier, we saw before against David Branch, I defend the takedowns when they come. And when we're on the feet, I answer with power. Again, that's a very simplified answer to give for what his game plan is, but we've seen him have success against some fighters like Derek Brunson. Even go back to Jack Hermanson. And again, Hermanson might not be the wrestler that Brunson is. He's definitely the grappler that Brunson is. He wasn't able to get anything going against Jared Cannonier with his grappling. He was forced to be a sitting duck on the feet, gets knocked out. I do worry that that could happen against Derek Brunson in this matchup, where let's say Brunson isn't able to get his first, second, third takedown attempt. He eats a big uppercut and gets knocked out. But I do think Brunson will be able to secure the takedowns and really dominate with his wrestling.
Wayne hitting the super chat. Crash Bandicoot, let's go. What a weird... What's with everybody posing like this? Should I just start posing like that? I'd like to see wedding photos.
I don't think you have the body type for
where
it.
Everybody... Well, I could do the Nate Diaz, like the kangaroo. But when it comes to this fight, I really do have to pick up the old mouse at this point. But yeah, 320 likes. I mean, you're only 180 away from... Not a good spot for me. But when it comes to this one, I'll continue to try and be the professional I know that I am. I still have Derek Brunson in this one. Again, this is another one where you have to see it a little bit down the middle and then really try and talk about it. I mean, Cannonier went as far as a minus 190 during the week. He's minus 160 right now. If you look at it for Derek Brunson, it went up as high as plus 156. He's plus 134. Let's have a look at Topology. 57% of the fans with Cannonier, 75% by knockout. For the 43% that have Brunson, 79% by decision. I mean, Jared Cannonier has more power than a lot of the guys that Derek Brunson's been fighting lately.
Than half the guys that like light heavyweight.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. So, yeah, for Jared Cannonier to go out there and win by knockout, man, that would be a lot of fun. But, yeah, I've got Derek Brunson in this one. It is tricky.
So, again, last thing. Do you think the winner will get a title shot?
Yeah, I do. The division's weak. Vittoria's in a weird place. Costa's see you later, so.
I agree with that. I think they will.
All right, Matt. We'll move on to our co-main event of the evening. Let me know over there in the comment section who you have in this one. Derek Lewis coming in at the tippity top of the division. Tai Tuivasa, fresh from that personal Dubai training camp that he's had for his last two fights now. This one included in those two. And for Tuivasa, I mean, listen, at the press conference, they were down to bang, bro. So, listen, Julian Lane's down for it. Julian Lane's going to be fighting Mike Perry in bare knuckle. That's
a thing that's happening.
It's a fight I'm going to miss. But in this one, I'm not going to miss it. I can't wait for this fight. This might be one of my most favorite ones of the weekend.
This fight's absolutely insane. And anytime you have two guys who weigh about 260 pounds, who are lifelong trained strikers, getting into a lock cage together, something crazy is probably going to happen. Except for that one time Derek Lewis fought Francis Ngannou, and nothing crazy happened at all. I think this could be a really fun fight, though, just because of Tai Tuivasa's style. Like, he doesn't say, oh, I'm going to go out there and bang, bro, and say it, like, ironically. That really is his game plan. No matter who he's fighting, not that he can't grapple, but let's be honest, he doesn't really grapple all that much. He has great leg kicks, and he's so fast for this division, too. Like, Tai Tuivasa's hand speed really is the thing, at least to me, that stands out as, wow, this truly is exceptional amongst his skill set. But my issue is, even look at his last opponent. Like, Augusto Sakai barely looked like he wanted to be in that fight. He gets his head hit 1,000 times, and he folded. Like, if Derek Lewis fought Augusto Sakai in that fight, he would have knocked him out, too. I just think this fight is as 50-50 as any on the card. Because listen, Derek Lewis is a heavyweight who throws wheel kicks, but he has a gun on him. And same thing as Tai Tuivasa. I'm going to stick with the Derek Lewis pick just because I feel like he has slightly more refined skills, but this is a great fight.
Jack Lawson hitting up the super chat. Don't sleep on Arlovsky and Rojo. Speaking of sleep, Bobby Knuckles chokes out Adesanya in the third or fourth. Jack Lawson, unfortunately, I agree with all three, but we could both be wrong. We could both be right.
What a wild outcome. Could you imagine, though, like, Robert Whittaker chokes out Adesanya, and that's the image we get for him to win the title?
You'll get a good highlight clip for our YouTube channel.
That would be
That's
cool.
all I can say with Fight Night Picks Companion later on tonight. But again, when it comes to this one, Fearless gets it. Craig, how about doing a shoey? If Derek Lewis shoots at the start of that fight, I will do a shoey. I promise you.
Okay, how much? You say the start, though. Let's actually, like, The first minute of the fight.
The first minute of the fight, I will do a shoey.
Wow.
It won't be out of one of the Jordans behind us. It won't be out of the Carlos Newton Jordan there, but I'll find a shoe that maybe... I have a couple unworn shoes that are in the closet. I'll go with one of
You
those.
gotta spit in it, though.
No, disgusting. So, but when it comes to this fight, again, you're right. When you look at the odds, I know we're split at the start of the week. If you look at it for Derek Lewis, decent favorite at home in this one. Open to minus 146, minus 190. It dropped really quick. It stayed about there all week. For Tuivasa, he's coming in a plus 160 or thereabouts. I've got Tuivasa based on the speed, based on the leg kicks, the advancements we've seen. Just on the win streak, we've seen where he's not aim big, miss big like he used to be as much. Now, we talked about that. In the fight against Greg Hardy, he gets hit, he goes brawl mode, and he used to get into brawl mode, and that brought him into the losing. Again, you look at it against, I wanted to say Stefan Sekulic, but it's not Stefan Sekulic. Against, who was it?
Struve.
Not Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve, he knocks him out twice. It's our favorite guy, Sergey Spivak. In that fight, he definitely struggles with the ground game. I don't think you're going to see that out of Derek Lewis, so I don't worry about that in this fight. But again, Lewis lost his last time in Houston, which was the fight against Cyril Gane. Went out there, had a big win in December against Chris Daukaus, and then now he's back in Houston. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. But again, I like the speed. I like Tai Tuivasa. And it's not often where I or many people like a fighter ranked 11th in a division to beat the third-ranked guy in Derek Lewis. Kind of crazy.
Derek Lewis, I picked against Derek Lewis in his last fight. Then he Thanos snapped Chris Daukaus out of the rankings. So that tells you just how dangerous he is. This is the position where if you're a Tai Tuivasa fan or at least backer, you'll be nervous at. If he's the one getting backed up by Derek Lewis, bad things are going to happen the second his back hits the cage. Because with Tuivasa, you're right, he has refined his skill, but he still has that gunslinger mindset to him where if he eats a shot, he's going to try to respond with a big one too. And if Greg Hardy can hurt you on the feet, I think Derek Lewis can put you out.
It's going to be a very, very interesting one. Bailey Ripplinger asking about Waffle House. I don't know if they do have them in Canada, but we definitely don't have any here. Same as Denny's. Closest Denny's in St. John's.
There's a waffle station here that's not bad.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. So, Matt, we move into our main event of the evening. Let us know over there in the comment section who you have. You already let us know in the tab that's up there. 869 total votes. Who takes the main event? 74% Adesanya, seeing it going the same way as the first fight. And 26% with Whittaker. Now, obviously, you did see the fact that, yes, I mean, Whittaker, Jack Lawson said it, getting the submission win. That'd be pretty cool. T.O. Moose, who's got the better leg kicks? I'm assuming you mean in the co-main event. I think Tuivasa has better leg kicks. Because
he does, but I will say this. Derek Lewis responds really well when guys kick him. Even go back to the Volkov fight. If you only have one leg on the ground, you can't move backwards, and that's normally when he blitzes forward.
So it comes to this fight. I mean, Adesanya, I saw a few people mention it over there on Twitter. He looks physically really good. He looks like he put on muscle, and I get it. It might sound silly because Adesanya usually comes at what in? At what?
183?
183. For this one, it's 184. So how big of a difference is it? I'm serious. Physically, he looked really good. Even sometimes at night when they do the ceremonial weigh-ins, he looks drawn out around his eyes.
Whittaker looked jacked, though, too.
I thought they both looked really good. So that one is really fun. But for both of these guys, Adesanya, man, he just continues to wrench up all the things that he's good at. And Robert Whittaker kind of does the same thing, too. So that's what makes it more fun. Have either guy really made a big jump in their skill set? I don't necessarily think so, and that's a huge talking point for a lot of people this week.
I think you're right, but I do think the difference is the way Whittaker uses his skill set is different. I don't think he added any new skills. He's always been a sort of a good example of, I'm a mixed martial artist who prefers to strike. But he mixes in his takedown attempts way more now, especially ever since he lost to Adesanya. And it's not even to use his takedown attempt to, actually take his opponent down. We saw it a lot in the Darren Till fight. It's, I'm going to fake high, go low, and then strike high again. It's almost like a reverse Chad Mendes, to be fair. But the weird thing about Whittaker is that if he wins this fight, he's probably going to have to do something on the feet at some point. And I don't think he's going to be able to have a lot of success in the feet with Adesanya because his wrestling isn't at the level of a Marvin Vettori or Yoel Romero. This is what I always go back to. Yoel Romero and Marvin Vettori are the two best wrestlers in this weight division next to Derek Brunson, but we can throw him in there too because he fought Adesanya. Could any of those guys take Israel down? No. And they all have extensive wrestling backgrounds, and it's a part of their MMA game, so they're practicing it every single day in the gym. It's not like a Tyron Woodley where, he's got the wrestling background, but he never really does it. Robert Whittaker is a good wrestler, but he is a striker by trade. So I just don't think he's going to be able to use the wrestling improvements and go out there and look like a wrestler. So to me, I do think this fight's still going to look the same. It might be longer, and he might have a little bit more success, but the way that Adesanya can strike moving backwards, and his durability level over Whittaker's, this is the last thing we're going to say. Robert Whittaker has Hall of Fame skills in pretty much everything, but I've seen him get dropped by Darren Till, I've seen him get knocked out by Wonder Boy, I've seen him get knocked out by Adesanya. Like, he has been hurt before in the past, and I do think he's probably going to get knocked out again.
Now, Jack Lawson has a really good point to follow up with the super chat from earlier. Look at Whittaker's timing on the takedowns versus Gastelum. That might be the best double legs I've ever seen. And Calvin Gastelum's a better wrestler than Israel Adesanya. Offensively, defensively, it is tricky. I mean, especially for a guy that comes in MMA as a kickboxer, you know that everybody's going to test him there. And so far, Jan Blachowicz and the split decision fight against Marvin Vettori, like, those are the only 2 times in the UFC that I've seen Adesanya tested to the brink. So there's a great opportunity that Whittaker could go in there, have that success of that game plan, really take a lot from what Blachowicz did. I get it. It's up a weight class and so on and so forth. But again, I go with the striking edge that Adesanya has. I go with, first guy in the rematch, and then we're into the second
and
fight.
how UFC would it be for Adesanya to sign that big deal for an undisclosed amount and then have him lose his first fight? Like, that would be the most MMA way this story goes, because this sport is so weird.
Dana White did have dinner with Francis Ngannou before he went home to Cameroon. So, listen, who knows what could happen. But again, let us know down there in the comments section who you have in this fight. Matt, there's almost 900 tuned in right now, 354 likes. I'm not going to have to shoot the bomb unless you toss a like and we get up to 500. That was the challenge that was issued to me, and I like those challenges, Matt. As you know, with question mark kicks, we go back down through, we file through the picks. We both switched the pick of William Knight over to Max Grecian because a 12-pound weight miss just really scares the heck out of me. But the only thing that I do have on this, I have, fight doesn't go the distance at -115 as the first leg of the QMK parlay.
I hate picking fighters who miss weight by 1 pound, so you got to be sure I'm going to switch the pick when he misses by 12. I'll go with Grecian, even though I don't really love his game, if we're being completely honest, especially against guys who are in a higher tier than William Knight, but I think he'll be able to get the win today.
All right, Matt, we move into our next fight. We have Jeremiah Wells taking on Blood Diamond. Over in the comments section, it just glitched for a second. CNY Smash Bros, can we get FNP Fleece in the store sometime soon? I mean, I've got it's not even a quarter zip, it's a full zip. It's pretty cool. And I think I might add to the store moving forward. So thanks for the question there. 376 likes at this point, so I'm getting a little yikes. But Jeremiah Wells, Blood Diamond, I mean, what a fun fight. Clash of Styles. Wells a big favorite in Blood Diamond's UFC debut. Can Mike Mathetha bring the win back home to City Kickboxing and start the night off for the gym at 1-0 with a possible 3?
If he does, he'll join Slava Claus in like the, wow, that's a great way to get a knockout win group, but I just don't think he will. And again, when you're a striker of his caliber with only 4-ounce gloves on, you're going to have a really, really good chance to knock out pretty much anybody you fight, but I just think Jeremiah Wells is slightly too well-rounded to fight Blood Diamond, especially for his UFC debut.
Name one time where Dana backed a fighter and it worked out for him. Not the time he sent Chuck Liddell over to Pride. Wasn't that time?
That was tough.
All right, Matt, we move into our next fight. D. Silva taking on Sergey Morozov. I've got the underdog, D. Silva.
Should be a fun fight, but I do like Morozov in this one.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we have AJ Dobson, Jacob Malkoun. Matt's confidence on this one, shaking. I'm going with AJ Dobson, but again, he could punch himself out in the first round, end up on his back and in a bad spot.
I'm going with the training partner himself, Jacob Malkoun.
All right, Matt, our next fight, we have Mana Martinez, Ronnie Lawrence. I've got Ronnie Lawrence, but again, both guys didn't look great on the scale. Great clash of styles. Possible fight of the night on our fight of the night screen. Ronnie Lawrence with those takedowns, man. He'd get knocked out by Mana Martinez, but I like those takedowns.
Yeah, I like Ronnie Lawrence quite a bit in this matchup.
All right, Matt, moving to our next one. Ulberg Cherant. I'm taking a shot in the dark. Is that a good Ozzy Osbourne? I got a great Ozzy Osbourne story from when I went to a Blue Jays game, but Keith, I'll keep it short. I'm just teasing.
What are we doing?
Fabio Cherant, I've got him in this fight. As the underdog, he very well could get knocked out in the first round, but for me, I'm going with Cherant.
You're putting up a lot of red flags for someone who's picking Cherant. I like Carlos Ulberg. I think he's going to be able to use his footwork to really evade Fabio Cherant and his takedown attempts. And if this fight is contested on the feet, I don't know how Ulberg loses it.
Shoot your shot. He's going to be my John Castaneda of the week. And we move into our next fight. Kyler Phillips, Marcelo Rojo. I've got this over 1.5 rounds on the QMK parlay. That's the second leg, but I think it's going to be a great fight. I think Kyler Phillips, though, and the reason why I'm going that way, I think he's going to be a little bit more reserved and tentative based on what happened in his last fight. And we've seen that either work out or not for guys like Rodolfo Vieira, guys like Roman Dolidze, and I think Phillips is just going to take his foot off the gas a little bit in the first round, apply it a little bit better, and for that reason, that's why I'm going that way. I have Phillips in the fight. He could definitely go out there and win it in the first, but I do like Phillips here.
I like Phillips in this one, but again, I think it's the pace of Rojo versus the space that Phillips can create in this fight. Because again, if Rojo can get on the inside of his kicking range and just hammer him away to the body and to the head, he should be able to win this fight, but I do like Kyler Phillips.
Keith saying Israel, Memphis against Charlotte, take Memphis, the Rams in the Super Bowl. Oh, Rams in the Super Bowl. All right, Matt, we move into our next fight. Roxanne Modafferi, Casey O'Neill. I've got the prospect in this fight in Casey O'Neill.
This is just one of those classic, like, hey, we have this bright young prospect and we're really trying to capitalize on someone else's name right now. Oh, Roxanne, you're planning on retiring soon? I know who we're making Roxanne fight. It's just, this is a tough stylistic matchup for Roxanne Modafferi. I know we say that a lot with Roxanne, but at this stage of her career, just the defensive grappling isn't really where I'd like it to be for her to be fighting Casey O'Neill.
Matt, our next fight, we have Arlovsky and Vandera going with another underdog in Jared Vandera to make the fight boring. But Matt, you've got Arlovsky outpointing him like he's outpointed and outboxed his last, like 4 opponents now?
There's few guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and Andre Arlovsky beating a guy outside the top 15 by unanimous decision. I think we're going to get that again.
All right, Matt, our next one, we've got Bobby Green, Nasrat Haqparast. Where'd the confidence go, pal?
Here's the thing. Bobby Green has struggled a lot in this weird second half of his career, but a lot of people only like to bring up the positives. It's, oh, he looked good against Fiziev, even though he lost that fight, and oh, he knocked out Ali Quinta, who wasn't really all in. Like, he's had some good wins against guys who he definitely should beat, though, and that's what worries me. Like, you beating Clay Guida doesn't really prove to me that, wow, you can go out there and beat Nasrat Haqparast too. I think Haqparast is the faster guy, though, and especially with his footwork. I like the way that Bobby Green moves his stomach and his head, but I don't like the way that he moves his feet. They are very stationary, and the one good thing about Nasrat Haqparast is that he can dart in and dart out from a very long distance, so I can see him tagging Green early and really making him pay.
Yeah, Nasrat very much an in-and-out fighter. Bobby Green a little bit more side to side, but like you had mentioned, it really is a tricky one. Evil Eddie hanging out in the chat, and good day to you. I've got Bobby Green as I did at the start of the week. Alexander Hernandez, Renato, Moicano. I'm going with Moicano. The durability scares me every time he fights. I still do have him in this fight, though.
The durability might scare me from Moicano, but like the inactivity and overall question marks about where Alexander Hernandez fits in this whole division scares me too, because we talk about Alexander Hernandez like he's a borderline top 15 guy. But he hasn't really justified that type of hype, especially not in this division. Like, to be even a top 25 guy at lightweight means a lot. I know people only take track of who the top 15 are, but that's how deep this weight class really is. And when I look at Alexander Hernandez, like, do you think for sure he would beat someone like Brad Riddell? Like, no, that'd be a really tough fight for him. So I think Moicano's going to be able to win this one, but this just speaks to the overall depth, I think, of the division.
All right, Matt, we've got 3 left. Cannonier, Brunson. Both of us going with Derek Brunson.
I like Brunson a lot at the start of the week. I still like him, but there's a world where Cannonier wins. Like, he has made at least a run of his career just based off defending wrestlers' takedowns and then knocking them out on the feet.
Harry Young with the 10-9 slam. Oh, you got us. You got us. Yeah, I've got Derek Brunson in this one. Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa. It should be a great fight. I've got another underdog. I'm going with Tai Tuivasa in this one with the speed of his shots, and I really do like that personalized training once he's away from, and I gotta make sure I get this one right, because I said South Sydney at the start of the week. It's Western Sydney. I made an apology, and I made a mistake. I'm not good with a compass, but yeah, I've got Tai Tuivasa in this one.
I think Derek Lewis should be able to back him up at least at some point throughout this fight. It's very strange with Tuivasa because he is in that Jairzinho Rosenstruck category where it's like, okay, when you move forward, you destroy most guys. But when you move backwards, that's when a lot of the holes in your game start to be revealed. I like Derek Lewis because of the fact that when he moves guys backwards, that's really where his game opens up. But I think this could be a phenomenal fight. I really do.
And in the main event, we have Israel Adesanya taking on Robert Whittaker. The rematch. We get up to 400 likes, and I definitely appreciate that out of everybody when it comes to this fight. I'm going with Ian still, but I gotta say this, Matt. Like, I haven't been this excited about a pay-per-view card in a long time. I've been down on some of the signings lately. I've kind of let that be known a little bit, but I really do love this card, and I think it's gonna be a great fight.
Yeah, like Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker couldn't be boring no matter how many times they put these guys together. Whittaker is as good of an MMA striker as you can possibly be because he is sort of a unique mix. Like, if someone came up to me and said, what kind of a striker is Robert Whittaker? Is he a karate type striker? Is he a boxer? Like, he just kind of does everything really well on the feet. Yes, he has a wide stance, but he's very kick heavy. He has really good boxing combos. So I think this is a very fun fight from a stylistic standpoint. I just don't know how Robert Whittaker can get success going on the feet because he doesn't throw a lot of leg kicks, which is a really big problem when you're fighting a guy like Adesanya. I think he has good wrestling, but I think you need great wrestling to get Adesanya to the mat. And for those reasons, I think Israel's going to win.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and you can join us for the main card of the Fight Night Picks Companion. Here on the YouTube channel. You're already here. Toss a sub. I mean, it's been great to see everybody that's tuned in. This has been one of the best episodes of Question Mark Kicks we've had in a very long time. I want to thank everybody for the super chats as well. It definitely does help drive the show. So thank you so much. I mean, Brandon G, keep pumping 90 more likes and time's ticking. Brandon, if we get to 500 after the fact, I'll still do the toothpick in the fight campaign, and hopefully the hiccups don't get the best of me like they did the last time. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody because it's really been a wild ride. Last week we passed the 30,000K, and you're going to get Dana White's Contender Series stuff at the end of the week. Brandon N, I'm sorry, man. You hit me with a super chat, and that's the hardest question you could ask me. You broke the computer.
Highest chance of a draw? Off the top of my head, I can see Kyler Phillips Rojo being a draw. I know that's an easy cop-out because Kyler Phillips' last fight could have been a draw. But again, with a fight like that, he could have a really good start and get tired again. But that's a tough one to predict. But just last note, like you had said, with where this channel's grown, we can't do any of this stuff without you guys. And the fact that you guys still stick around and want to listen to us talk about MMA is very, very nice. And we very much appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully all you guys have a great fight night too. Because that's what really matters. We all like MMA. Hopefully you guys have a great pay-per-view.
All right, have a good time. Make sure you join in with the Fight Night Picks Companion. It should be a great one. And yeah, I mean, as we always say with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
A last look at the big card. Be sure to head into the chat and have your say. Let's get into it and join in Fight Night Picks Question Mark Kicks.